One of the great crises facing our country, and it is a crisis that we talk too little about, we don't have enough discussion about it, is youth unemployment in general and Black and Hispanic youth unemployment in particular. Today in our country, youth unemployment is 17%. We ever talk about that? Youth unemployment is 17%, and Black youth unemployment from ages 16 to 19 is 27%. 27%. Clearly, this is unacceptable, and this is having a huge impact on our society, and this cannot be allowed to continue. Today in America, over 5.5 million young people have either dropped out of high school or have graduated high school and do not have jobs, and they're not in school. It is no great secret that without work, without education, and without hope, people get into trouble. That is just a fact. And the result is that tragically, here in the United States, we have more people in jail today than any other country on earth, including China. China is an authoritarian country with a population 4 times our size, and we have more people in jail than China does. Today, the United States is 5% of the world's population, 5%, yet we have 25% of the world's prisoners.
Let me thank Rosa and all of the great members of the House behind me for understanding that if there was ever a time in American history that we have got to stand up for the American worker and not for corporate greed, today is that day, and the TPP is that issue. The facts are very clear. The TPP follows in the footsteps of other disastrous trade agreements. NAFTA, CAFTA, permanent normal trade relations with China, and the South Korean Free Trade Agreement. Over and over again, we were told by corporate America and their representatives about all of the jobs that these trade agreements would create. And over again, the proponents of unfettered free trade were wrong. Bill Clinton promised that NAFTA would create 1 million jobs in 5 years. In fact, it lost 700,000 jobs. We were promised that PNTR with China would create hundreds of thousands of jobs. Instead, it has led to the loss of over 2 million jobs. And on it goes. Everybody knows that the great middle class of this country is disappearing, and one of the major reasons is a disastrous set of trade policies which force American workers to compete against workers around the world who make pennies an hour. Our job is to lift up the poor people of the world, not to lower the standard of living of American workers. And it is interesting, as Rosa mentioned, to take a look at those people who are supporting TPP and those people who are opposing TPP. On one hand, you have virtually every major multinational corporations, and virtually all of them have outsourced collectively millions of jobs. You got Wall Street telling us what a great trade agreement this is. You got the drug companies telling us what a great trade agreement this is. But on our side, we have every union in America fighting to protect the American middle class. You have virtually every environmental group and many religious groups. I think we stand with those organizations that represent workers, the environment, and moral values, and not with the greed of corporate America. This is not just about American workers having to compete against people in Vietnam who have a minimum wage of 56 cents an hour. This is also about multinational corporations having the right to challenge any law that could reduce their, quote, expected future profits. If a country or a state wants to protect its kids from tobacco and smoking, they could be taken to an international tribunal because they're threatening the future profits of Philip Morris. If a local, state, or federal government wants to protect the environmental needs of our people, they could be taken to an international tribunal because they threaten future profits. That is not what democracy is about. This is a bad agreement following other bad agreements. It must be defeated, and I thank my friends in the House for their efforts. Thank you.